Hello and welcome back to Mindful Mischief. Mindful Mischief. I'm Dr. Martinez, principal here at LaVille Elementary School. Excited to be here for episode 8. And where is the time gone? It seems like we're just flying through all of these podcasts. As we said from the beginning, our goal was twofolded: to provide information to families, but also to have some fun along the way. I think we're really doing a good job with the having fun part, and hopefully we're delivering some information as well.
I'm having a nice time.
So much fun.
Lovely.
Ooh, we have a guest in
the studio.
I got distracted.
Yeah.
No way.
We are receiving squirrel. We are receiving a lot of positive feedback, which is helpful to let us know that people are taking meaningful information and enjoying this journey with us. So thank you for everyone who's been joining us. So we've been starting every episode with a fun question for our hosts. And at first I was like, oh, I've got a serious one. I'm gonna go with the solid, serious, thoughtful one. And then I was like, nah, we're going another direction. So, food competitions.
Ew.
If you were to enter a food competition and have to wager an amount of money that was meaningful to you, what food competition would you enter? Who wants to go first?
Let's ask Kari. Let's start with
Kari, let's start with you.
So, I love spaghetti, and I would eat an enormous amount, but an enormous amount for me doesn't equate to like being able to wager large amounts. But I could also do some salted watermelon, and I would dig it.
Dig it.
So that would probably be, either spaghetti, which would be really fun, also just really messy, which makes it exciting, or I could
Probably
go with
need to
my
wear a bib.
watermelon. I would not. I would wear my whole white shirt and just see how messy we get.
Yeah.
What would you do, Lisa?
My instinct says, like, I do have a question though. Is it amount that you eat, or is it speed? Because I have a real fear of choking, and speed is not my thing. Like, I don't eat fast. I don't want to eat fast, and that freaks me out.
For you.
So if it's just like the sheer amount,
I think it depends wherever you want to go with it, because the competitions happen both ways,
then
right?
this is fair. If we go sheer amount, I could probably out eat anyone on pizza. As long as it's a thin crust and a thin layer of marinara. I couldn't eat like a pan Pizza Hut pizza, right? Because that's a lot of crust. But I also am not a big fan of marinara, so it would need to be a thin amount. But also, I have actually engaged in an eating competition in Arby's roast beef sandwiches before, and I did win that against a grown man.
How many?
I ate 6. And I was in high school.
Wow.
So
How does that even
I was in high school. I ate 6. So I am the reigning champion of Arby's roast beef sandwich eating.
I grew up working at Arby's.
I feel like there should be a rematch during appreciation
But as soon as you add the cheddar to the roast beef, I'm out. Game over. Do not put cheddar. No, I hate it. I hate it so much.
There's
but
a
I will
sauce there,
slam
too.
some Arby's
Well,
roast beef
it depends
sandwiches.
if it's the good cheddar or like the knockoff cheddar they have to get because the other one's out.
That's disgusting.
Yeah.
All of it. I don't want any cheddar on it.
We don't yuck on other people's yums.
That's right, Mrs. Six.
That's deep.
That's why you're on the podcast.
While you're on the podcast.
I'm gonna work on it.
So the reason this question popped into my mind, because I had a recollection, a flashback of my younger elementary self eating sticks of butter. Just taking a stick of butter.
I used to do that with sour cream.
And unraveling it and just eating a stick of butter.
My
mom got me in the fridge
As-
eating soft butter before.
As a child,
so,
I might have gone with eating butter.
yeah.
Yeah.
What would you
Explains
go
your
with
cholesterol
now?
now.
Well, maybe.
What would
Maybe.
you
it a
go with
problem?
now? Still butter?
Oh, is it a problem? I think I take medication for it.
It's a problem.
Scotty, are we looping Scotty in on this one? Scotty, food competition.
You didn't answer that.
I got
said
nothing. Hot dogs?
Hot dogs,
Nathan's. They gotta be Nathan's though, because those are the best.
they're the best.
I take the vanilla way out.
I was going to say, that's sort of
your
boring,
best.
Scotty. That already exists.
Maybe he needs to sign up and prove it.
Maybe. We should do an internet search and see what we can find.
I'm
Okay.
down.
Yeah. All right, so we've got 2 fantastic guests with us today. They've already been chiming in just like the pros that they are. Miss Christina Menis, 3rd grade teacher at LaVille Elementary, and Miss Mary Six, Title I teacher. So we'll give each of you a chance to introduce yourself, give us kind of a 1-minute elevator pitch, background about who you are, your connection to LaVille. You're welcome to chime in on your food competition. But also another question for you is if you could bring back any sort of fashion trend.
So many questions
What would it be?
all at once.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mary Six. oldest of 5, mother, nana, teacher, cheerleader, and traffic director, all in one. This is my 23rd year of teaching. And my kids went to LaVille, my husband went to LaVille, and LaVille's the best. If I was to choose a fashion trend, it's really hard because when the older you get, you see them all come back. So almost all of the trends have come back. But overalls with glittery, sparkly shirts will always be my jam.
Very nice. You do like to shine.
I do, thanks.
Christina?
I'm Christina Menis. I teach 3rd grade. I'm an only child, but I have 6 children of my own, a couple of grown adult ones, and then I still have 3 kids in LaVille schools. I homeschooled for a really long time, and then when I was ready to go back to work and put my kids back in school, this is our homeschool, and we've loved every minute of it. I've been teaching here for, I think, 4 years now. I've sort of traveled throughout the building and landed in 3rd this year, and I love it, love it. I would eat French fries.
Ooh, that's a good one.
good choice.
French fries.
Yeah.
French fries.
choice.
My love
Any
language is
particular
potatoes.
kind of French fry?
Crinkle cut, straight
matters.
cut.
Oh, I don't like a crinkle cut.
No,
I
I'm
don't
not
like
a
a crinkle
crinkle.
cut either.
I like
waste my
waffle
time.
fries.
Yeah.
Waffle.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And there's,
What about your fashion trend? What would you bring back?
I mean, I feel like they've all come back, like you said, but I am in the middle of costuming Footloose right now, and I'm about to teach 40 children how to tight roll their jeans.
Yes.
I love that.
So after that, we might be bringing that one back.
I thought about that one. Back to the French fries, though. Would you dip? And if so, like in what?
A condiment.
Yes. Honey mustard's my favorite, but it has to be.
queen.
Yes, it has to be good honey mustard because some of them are really terrible.
What's the good one?
Ken's honey mustard, that's a good one.
Jalapeno mustard, the best.
Oh, no, not jalapeno.
Oh, yeah.
No. I don't really, honestly, I don't know. I don't have a favorite at the moment. Every
The
time.
Sweet Baby Ray's honey mustard isn't bad. Also,
Well, but here's the deal. When you go through a drive-through, every drive-through has different honey
Different
mustard.
honey mustard.
And lately I've been opening it and dipping it, and I take one bite and I don't eat anymore because they all suck. So,
I'm a big honey mustard.
Do better drive
Do
through.
better.
yeah,
Fast
yeah,
food.
yeah.
Big honey mustard.
So fast food French fries are usually no dip because they're not good.
Yeah.
yeah.
Lisa? Fashion trend?
Oh. How about, I'm going to actually say one that I refuse to let come back. We're not bringing back low-rise jeans. Mothers unite.
Never.
Okay? High-rise
Never.
for the entire infinity of time. We
Infinity
will
and
not
beyond.
bring back zippers that are this long.
No.
Okay? High-rise only. Above the belly button. The higher the better, actually. If I stood up and you could see how high my pants are, you guys would all understand. Additional support is required at this point in my life.
Okay.
Carry on.
Kari, carry on.
Here I go. Hard to. How do you like follow that
How do
one?
you follow?
How do you follow low-rise jeans? If I could bring back any fashion trend, I also just really love a good sequined anything. I love my shiny, sparkly things. Is it distracting to me? Absolutely. Do I
Yes.
still love it? Absolutely.
Stay with it. It's a good one.
I'm gonna stay with it. I'm not gonna go any further because it's just that good, Mary.
Okay.
So we're gonna keep moving because this is a lot.
Yeah. I'm going to go with the MC Hammer parachute pants.
Oh,
Let's bring
That's
those
a
back.
choice.
Wet.
Yeah, let's bring those
choice.
back.
But they get wet at the bottom.
Maybe. Sometimes you got to make a sacrifice.
I'm gonna.
Are we allowed to yuck that yum?
Yes, I'm
we
gonna
yuck that yum?
cling to my skinny jeans.
Yeah.
I'm clinging to my skinny jeans for now and forever.
All right, so we are on Chapter 8, Episode 8, which is the power of acceptance and the skill of empathy. Last episode, Episode 7, Lisa talked to us about choices. So, Lisa, if you want to give us a quick recap.
yeah, I just had a quick panic moment. Did you see
Forgot
that?
about
I
it,
was
didn't
like,
you?
I gotta do that. So lucky for me, past Lisa wrote that in her script for 7. The most important points from Chapter 7 were, I'm in charge of me. I'm the only person I can change. This even applies to our children and our spouses. I think a lot of times we're like, I'm gonna change you, or I'm gonna get you to do what I want you to do. Just not really the case. But they talked about, Dr. Becky talked about choices corresponding with the states, the brain states that we talked about way earlier, and providing 2 positive choices that reach the goal, but this is only effective if your child is in the emotional state. If they're in the executive state, you should provide open-ended questions and an opportunity for problem solving, but if they're in the survival state, assertive commands only. Giving them choices or even open-ended questions is going to send them into a tizzy. We just need to give them commands so we can get through that survival state and get to the point where we can have positive choices. So I've been working really hard. As a mom on the 2 positive choices trick.
Yeah, I've pivoted a little bit since last episode because we talked about how sometimes the second choice wasn't always positive. It might be like, or we're going to bed,
Yes.
which isn't positive. So I've been
Yes.
trying to work on that myself.
Yes. Yeah, it's a challenge.
It is. All right.
My
So-
go-to, would you like to hold this hand or this hand?
Or this
Ooh,
chair
that's
or
good.
that chair.
Every time. If we're like transitioning anywhere. So I stopped giving the choice of like, are we going to bed or we're going upstairs or we're going inside? We're going inside. Are you going to hold this hand or this
Yeah.
hand? Yeah.
I thought one of the cleanup examples from the book was like you can either clean up your cars first or you can clean up your stuffed animals first. Which one do you want to clean up first? I thought
Yes.
that was a good one too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which one? Mm-hmm.
Good stuff.
It works with testing too.
How so?
A
Do you
or
want
B?
to do math or do you want to do science? Your choice.
Yes.
We're
Nice.
still going to get those tests done and we're still going to go well, but they get the buy-in. It's important.
Get to choose.
All right, so we're going to jump right into episode 8, the power of acceptance and the skill of empathy. So starting with the power of acceptance, it tells us that the moment is as it is. It's a pretty plain and simple statement, but isn't always easy for us to come to terms with. One of the questions that the chapter opened up with was a reflection question, and it was to think about how often we have said or we believe things like things should have gone differently, or making statements like, what should you be doing instead? Or I can't believe you're acting like this. And instead of accepting the moment for what it is, you're kind of painting yourself in this situation where, you know, you can go back and fix it, but you can't go back and fix what's already been done. All you can do is move forward, right? So instead, we should accept the moment for what it is instead of negating what is actually happening. By accepting the moment for what it is, we can, 1, put ourselves in a position to offer empathy, 2, see a situation from multiple perspectives, and 3, allow us to make change and transformation. And we've all heard this many times before, we can only change ourselves, not others. We've talked about the let them theory on this show. We can't control others, we can only control what we do. So demanding that the world around us changes only creates more struggle, right? So what is acceptance? Dr. Becky, Conscious Discipline, Dr. Becky describes acceptance as the active, non-judgmental embracing of experience in the here and in the now. It's mindfulness in action and improves the well-being of all. But unfortunately, far too often, our unwillingness to accept the moment paves ways for attacking others and also attacking ourselves. Think of the following scenarios. A 4-year-old wants a cracker, and they yell, "I hate you," even though you've already told them, we don't even have crackers, right? A 9-year-old gets mad and slams the door because they're not allowed to stay at a friend's house. A 30-year-old teacher gets aggravated when children forget to raise their hands, right? These are all examples of emotional outbursts or emotional responses resulting from a failure to accept the moment for what it is. Anyone have any examples? Does that connect with anyone, either at a professional level or personal level, that they're willing to kind of share, connect those same ideas or thoughts to?
Always. Always. I am the queen of like beating myself up about everything. And I actually just had a conversation with a coworker earlier this week about a situation that happened last week. And I was like, as I'm reflecting, I should have said X, Y, and Z. I should have done A, B, and C. And I'm kicking myself for not doing that because in that moment, I probably didn't show up as a friend as well as I would have liked to. Does that make sense? It was definitely a professional situation, but I should have showed up differently on a friend level in that situation. And, you know, I guess I just shared with her that, like, I should have done that differently, and I'm sorry.
I was thinking about the reflection piece too, because like it's kind of a thin line between reflection and also using that should statement. So then what do you do instead of saying should?
Right.
Like, I don't know. I think that's the question.
But I have thought, and you were actually, even while we were talking, you said I should have, and I'm like, you're doing it right now.
Exactly.
So in therapy, if I were to put my therapist hat on for a second, we have a phrase. I'm not cussing, I'm not saying anything bad, but we say don't should on yourself, because when you do that, it's this cognitive distortion where you are trying so hard to control what you did before that you're not able to move forward. And
Right.
so what I could do differently, we say I wish I would have. And so we're using those tiny little statements of I wish I had done this. What can I do next time?
I was just going to say, could you do
We could say I wish.
next time I'm going to?
Or could. Is could a better replacement than should? Because you just used the word could as well.
Yeah, because I think it's putting
Next time I
maybe
will.
more- Next time I will. It's you're putting a little more grace in between that, right? Like I could do that instead of I should. Should feels like I need to do this, and there is guilt and shame under it. Versus
I was
I
going to say there's some
could.
shame tied to should.
Yeah.
And that's
Brene
one of those
Brown
feelings
talks about
that-
this in one of her
Yeah.
in her podcasts.
Shame or guilt,
Powerful.
depending if you're talking about someone else, right? If you're trying to maybe guilt them, right?
And you
by
can't go
telling them what they
backwards.
should have done.
Can't go backwards. So we don't should on ourselves or others.
Yeah, but I also, like, as an educator and as a parent, often say, what should you be doing? And almost not in a shameful way, but like if I'm walking into a situation and I know kids aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing, it is really a question. What should you be doing, actually? Like, what is the actual expectation? So just rewording that to take the should out probably would make a big difference.
I've
Take
never
the
even
should out.
yeah
Take the
I've never
should
even
out.
thought about that
Yeah.
from an educator standpoint. I use that phrase all the
think we
time.
probably all
What
do,
should we be
right?
doing
Yeah.
right now?
What
right?
should you do?
when you're watching everybody sort of wander the room and chat instead? What should you be doing?
I wonder
You
what
should be working.
what would we. I wonder what everyone else is doing. I wonder what you should be doing.
Yeah.
But I'm still saying
Yeah,
should.
like
But
that's
even like,
tricky.
but even
I
like if
wonder
you're given
replace it
a series of directions, right? This and then you should do this. Like that's not an accusatory.
Or just
that's not
that's
the
not shameful.
expectation is
Yeah.
blank, right?
Yeah, I guess I do say often, are you following the expectations right now?
Yeah.
And that's, I guess, would be a good
But that is also
substitute.
assuming that you have, and this is an area that sometimes I struggled with classroom management is, are my expectations clear? Did I make them clear to everyone? I know my expectations are clear to all of these kids that are in the executive state over here because
Right.
they're hanging on every word and they're ready. But are my expectations clear to you in the emotional state and you in the survival state, right? So that's even tricky in itself.
And that question is very difficult if you are in the emotional state or in the survival state, right? Like I don't know what I should be doing, and now I'm feeling guilty that I'm
And now
not
you're
pleasing
saying,
you.
yeah.
So it's going to increase that anxiety.
Yeah. Right before I came here, a teacher needed to take a medical phone call. And she's like, can you just step into my classroom? And I was like, yeah, totally. So these sixth graders are coming in and they're, milling about. And I was like, what should we be doing? She didn't give me any direction. I'm only here to keep everyone safe. What should we, I think I asked them like 5 times, what should we be doing? What is it? And which of you can I trust?
Yeah, and that's probably something we've all done, right? Because
Yeah.
it really is seeking information.
Yeah.
More than an accusation.
And
Yeah.
I wonder if we're
gotta
using
think about
that, like that phrase so much that kids tune it out, right? If they hear no so often, they tune it out. If they hear so many things, I wonder how often we are using that and they're just like, meh.
Yeah. Good thoughts.
Well,
So-
because there's really no follow through too, right? When you say it and you say, what should you be doing?
They go do it. There's not a conversation either.
Yeah, and there's no accountability after it, right?
Yeah,
There's not
where does
enough
the conversation
information
go,
to
right?
give them the accountability to do what they should be doing.
Yeah. All really good
passive.
thoughts. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the chapter went on to talk about when we resist those moments, not accepting what the moments are, it creates the upset, right? It keeps us in the emotional state. And for many, right, we're raised growing up thinking that feelings are the bad guy, right? We've been taught to ignore, we've been taught to dismiss, or even punish emotions. There was a video in the video training series clip that showed examples of how families, adults might respond to students or children in a situation. The situation was the 5-year-old's hamster just died. And it gave some great examples of what it looks like when we as the adults ignore those emotions or dismiss the emotions or punish the emotions. And so ignoring it looks like that rodent you had in your room, right? A child goes up to you and says, my hamster just died, and the adult responds, that rodent you had in your room. Just completely ignoring the emotions that that child is feeling. Another example was dismissing the child's emotions. So the kid goes up, my hamster died. Yeah, that's what they do, right? I'll have your dad take care of it. We can get you a new one, no big deal. Again, not acknowledging the actual emotions that that child is feeling, or punished, right? So I go up to the adult, the hamster just died. Didn't we talk about this? What did you do to it, right? Like you're putting the blame on the hamster's death on the child. The ideal approach then would be to acknowledge the student, the child's emotion, and then coach them through it. The goal being to stay present in that moment and coach them through their feelings. So in that situation, it might sound like, yeah, Charlie's dead and that's really hard. You loved him and you took such good care of him. When you're ready, we can decide what's best for partying and we'll get through it together. You're not alone. So it acknowledges that they have these feelings, and yeah, it's okay to be upset, be hard, and they're not alone in trying to process through it.
Easier said than done, though.
For sure.
Right, because what if that child took real garbage care of that hamster? Right? I'm not just going to bold-faced lie to her and be like, listen, you did your best. No, you didn't. I had to tell you every day to feed that hamster, and you haven't fed it in 3 days.
But it doesn't negate the death of the hamster, which I'm going to have feelings about a dead animal here, right? Like,
right, I knew we were going to.
It doesn't negate the death. And
yes.
Maybe right now we talk and we're sad for Charlie, and then later we're like, what could we do better next time so that Charlie the second doesn't die so fast.
And I think that's there is an important like separation of like, I'm not going to lie to you, or I'm not going to maybe sugarcoat something in a way that is untrue to avoid the feelings, right? I'll let you feel your feelings, but like I would have to say something like, yeah, he died and it's really hard. We're going to take care of it. I'm here for you. We'll figure out what our next steps are. But, like, I won't be saying you took good care of it if you didn't.
But maybe that comes after they're no longer emotional and you're talking about the idea of maybe getting another pet, right? Maybe that doesn't have to be brought up.
Yeah, like there's some guidelines we need to follow the next,
there's a place for the learning. Yeah, it's just not in this moment.
And you can't learn in an emotional state.
You can't.
Yeah.
So going on, again, emotions we've been taught are viewed as the bad guy, but in reality, emotions are not the bad guy, and we need them to serve vital purposes in our lives. Emotions are our guidance systems, they're our moral navigators, and they're our core system for discerning what is right and what is wrong. Our emotions tell us when life is either on track or off track and help nudge us back in the right direction. And then again, just that line, remember, we can't regulate what we don't know that we're having.
I think this piece is just really important because society has at some point taught us to ignore your emotions. And I'm thinking of generations prior to me, and like my parents are great, 100% fantastic people, but they're very much, and their parents were very much like, you pull it up by your bootstraps and you move on.
Get it together.
Right? Get it together and you move on. This is just an example of this. My Busha was born in the 1930s, and her husband died young, and then my aunt, her daughter, died when I was in high school. And so she was 47 and had a massive heart attack, and my Busha didn't cry at her daughter's funeral, or when she died, didn't cry at the hospital. And in that moment, I had said, like, are you gonna cry? Like, I was 18 years old, right? I'm an adult. I can have these conversations with her. And I'm like, are you gonna cry? And she said, when my mother-in-law died, okay, I'm Polish, so I have a Busha and a Jaja, right? So when my Jaja's mom died, he looked at her and he said, you can't cry. I need you to hold it together for me, otherwise I will cry. And she literally held on to that for the remainder of her life. She didn't cry through his funeral. She didn't cry through her daughter's funeral. And so just the way society has kind of taught us that, like, it's weak to show emotion. And this is something that I battle with. And I'm like looking at you guys, and I know other people have had this same kind of internal battle with emotions, and when's the appropriate time to show them and when's not. But like, we're fighting against generations of saying don't feel anything.
In my classroom at the beginning of the year, every time someone would cry, all the kids would rush up to me in a panic that someone was crying. And third grade's hard. Third grade's a hard year. Like, there's a lot of transition stuff happening. Things are getting trickier, and we had a lot of tears. And the number of times that I had to say, all your emotions are welcome in here. Like, it's okay. It's okay. We don't have to stop that child from crying. We're going to hold space until
They're
they're
ready.
through it, right? Because the thing they're doing right now is really hard. And when something's really hard, crying is a normal thing for your body to do. So just
Yeah.
telling them that when something is hard, it's normal that your body is having this reaction. And so now it's been really beautiful, actually, to watch them, instead of run up to me, panic, just like they'll do what I do, where like I'll walk through the room and I'll just put my hand on their shoulder and
Like,
I'll
just
see
notice them.
Yeah, and I'll see them do it together, like to each other now. And it's been this really lovely, it's probably one of my favorite things that's happened in my room this year.
A form of acknowledgement.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, just like I see you and I know this is hard, or I'll hear them say, it's hard for me too. You know, like pulling in, you know, relating to them and letting them know that they aren't alone.
Teaching them empathy.
Yeah, and that's welcome in our room, all of it, right? You can be mad, you can be sad, you can be joyful. We're gonna hold space for all of it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Well, I think like we've talked about this whole time, like you just pointed out, like we only know what we've been taught or shown
Right.
through the adults in our lives,
Yep.
right? And so it does take a lot of change. Like we talked about like the download, right? Like kids are going to download what we do. When we are calm, they're going to download calm. When we are emotional, they're going to download emotional. And so
Even
that's
from
why.
the gender perspective, like as a man, right? Like the expectation for you to not show any emotion and be absolutely stoic it's tricky. And I think even certain personality types are given more grace for emotion than others, right? Like, okay, so Christina's an 8, and I know that she's fine. Like using her as an example, I'm a 7, right? People don't expect you to be emotional or me to be emotional, and if I am,
They
emotional,
expect me to be mad,
yes, yeah.
but not anything else.
Right, but not a 2, right?
I'm a
So
2.
like if Kari's emotional, it's like, okay, Kari's emotional.
Yeah.
But if Lisa's emotional, then it's like,
We gotta
Yep.
freak
Do you want to
out.
explain the numbers to people who
I
maybe
was just
don't
going
know?
to say, you might want to let people
we're
in.
talking about Enneagrams. For those of you guys who are not Enneagram language speakers, do yourself a favor and take a test.
Yes.
But
They have free ones online.
it is actually really enlightening. But there was a situation at work one time where a coworker called me an ice queen. Because she was crying in a meeting, and I was like, listen, I can't control what's happening outside of work. If you want to problem solve between 8 and 3, I'm here for it. But until then, I'm walking out because we weren't making any headway. Looking back, came across a little aggressive, but also that is totally like my, like, I guess my personality and role at work of like, I'm here to problem solve. I can't change what's happening at home. And when you're in a place to do that, I will do that. But it was tough. It was tough because that hurt, right? Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not an ice cream. Like, I'm like actually super emotional. I feel everything.
But I think there's that element too of like self-awareness for those of us who don't typically show that kind of emotion, where it's almost a little bit harder to make space for people to feel comfortable
Yeah.
showing it to us.
Yeah.
Because we can seem sort of cold sometimes. And so that has been a self-awareness thing that I've had to work on, both with my own children.
Right.
That one's probably even harder than my students. I find it much easier to show up in that emotional capacity for my students, whereas with my own kids, I do tend to be a little harder,
That's normal.
a little more direct, and I
You have to.
Yeah, but I have at the same time taught them that it's okay for them to be like, hey, Mom, I just need you to be a little softer right now.
Hey, Mom, you're being a big jerk.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
But I think
That's a
it's
good
important
point.
to like remember that your emotions are indicators, they're not dictators. As a 2, as somebody who feels a lot of feelings, I have to remember whatever feeling I'm feeling, I have to show up in an appropriate way. There's always an appropriate
Yes.
way
Right.
to do those
That
things.
is
And so
true.
we are teaching, I mean, that's my job, right? Like I am teaching kids that how you can feel any feeling you want. All feelings are valid. Not all behaviors are appropriate. And
Yes.
so you can be mad, you can be sad. We're not punching walls. We're not hurting other
Punching
people.
adults.
We're not doing that.
And I
We
think
are.
that's where that piece of choices can pull back in too, right? And tie into the emotions is when we are trying to teach the appropriate behaviors. Okay, so I know you're really mad. Do you want to go downstairs and punch the punching bag, or do you want to go walk a couple laps around the wing? Giving them those choices of how to
Let go.
let go and move it through instead of pushing it down.
Yeah, that actually.
And then move on.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about that here in just a second. One last point about the emotions is just recognizing the role of emotions, right? So problems are things that already happened, right? It's the past. Solutions are the future. Feelings are right there in the middle in the present, and that's how we kind of get from the problems to the solutions. And
The
so
bridge,
just thinking back, right, exactly, like the role of feelings, like we can't just push it away because that's not fixing anything.
Right. Well, and how many times have you said, like, I just need to be mad right now. I'm going to, maybe this is just me. I'm going to problem solve. I'm going to problem solve, and I'll get to that point. But right now, all I need to be is mad. Please don't talk to me about problem solving. Like, just let me feel what I need to feel, and then I'll let you know when I'm ready.
Because I don't want to shove it down and then take it out on every other person I interact with. I need to, it moves quick. It moves quick, but I need it to move.
You're being authentic in that moment.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that teaching kids those self-advocacy skills of, you can tell your friend right now, I'm feeling angry and I can't talk yet. You know, so that we don't do the things that we are going to regret later when that shame washes over us.
Right. Well, even just like modeling for my toddler, I've said, I'm frustrated. Like I'm feeling so frustrated right now. I can't talk to you, right? Like I can't talk to you and I need space. What that typically ends up is her like getting closer and denying me what I'm asking. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and I think it's healthy as we've learned to let others know you're frustrated, as long as you're not telling them it's their fault. that
You're
they're
making me frustrated.
Right?
Yeah, that's not okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we were talking about the cycle of like what that looks like when we get upset. And Kari, one of the parts of the chapter was that addictive cycle.
Yeah, love
and what
that.
that looks like when you're upset. And I know you really connected to that, so I'll let you talk about that.
And random, Scotty, is this going to be shown on the screen or do I need to show it to explain it?
Yeah, I can put it on there.
That'd be super cool. So in the middle, it says the addictive cycle. We sabotage ourselves and our own goals in an attempt to self-regulate. So at the top, it says, I blame. Look what you made me do. So giving other people, what am I looking for? Other people have control over us,
Control,
right?
yeah,
And
the
that's
power.
not true. So we don't want to give that control away. But when we give them to that, then you're trying to gain control back by saying, I need this to go my way. And when I'm not getting what I want, then it says I medicate. And it says, I medicate the distressing sensations through addiction. So that could be like scrolling. That could be adults who use different addiction things.
Shopping was one that was also mentioned in the
shopping,
chapter.
Eating. Yeah.
Oh,
lots of
all my
things to
favorite
feel
things.
better. So we do that because we're feeling uncomfortable with our feelings. And rather than going through those motions, we're going to be uncomfortable and like do everything we can to get that dopamine dump back.
It's the easy button out.
Yeah. So we go from that uncomfortable, so I medicated, and now I'm going to bury it. So I bury my feelings in a life story or a life script, separating others, and we're now seen as like a victim-villain situation. And we use cognitive distortions, which is like, it's a CBT thing, so cognitive behavioral therapy. So when we do the things like should or you always do this, you never do this, we're now writing this story through emotions rather than through like what the truth is when we take that step back. And so we're telling ourselves this story, and the more we tell it, the more we believe it, and it's not always true. And then that leads into the I am stuck, which means I am stuck in my problem because we've stayed in that emotional center and we personalize that problem. So it can go from they think I'm a liar to like I am a liar, or that's not a good example. What am I thinking?
Self-fulfilling prophecies.
Right, we're fulfilling those things of I am. So I hear a lot of kids say I am anxious, and I was like, oh my goodness, you're not anxious. Like you are Christina.
feeling anxious.
You're feeling anxious. What does that look like in your body? And we need to give space between how I'm feeling and who I am.
When you pull those feelings into part of your identity, that's where it gets messy.
And then you claim it and you put it into who you are, and then that self-responsibility of being able to take care of it isn't able. So we have to start putting space in between to give ourselves that responsibility of I have to control my behavior even if my feeling feels really big.
That kind of relates to just like the people first notion of like with disabilities, right? I like this student isn't autistic, they're a student with autism, right? Their name with
I
a
have
learning
anxiety.
disability. I
I have ADHD.
Yeah, it's something you have. It's something you experience. It's not something you are.
I have a lot of kids who come into the office like, I have ADHD, and so they're like almost excusing a behavior that's not appropriate. And I'm not saying that those two things coexist, but like kids will come in and say that they have something, and then they're excusing a behavior that like is not, it's not okay, it's not
And that's
safe.
why I did it, because I have this.
Yeah, it's like putting that limiting belief on them that like, well, I'm never going to be able to do this because I
Right.
have this thing,
Right.
instead of learning the tools to not do that thing.
So we got to give them that hope that like you can do these things. It might be harder, but we have to be able to find a way to get through.
Right.
So there we go.
Yeah. And so in conscious discipline, we learn how to shift towards the success cycle. And that looks like recognizing that I am triggered, right? And recognizing that
I
I
feel
need
triggered.
to calm. So I'm going to take some breaths. And then identifying and naming the feelings that we have. And then choosing different ways that I can relax or get from one brain state to the next. And then figuring out what I need to do to move forward. And that's one of those pieces that we've talked about for the calming corner that can essentially be put in place in the classroom. And so it's just really important that we as the adults are the ones that are modeling what that looks like, because again, they're going to be downloading that because they learn from everything that we do, right? Good, bad, and otherwise.
And sometimes they just need to be seen and heard, and
always.
maybe don't even need anything at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes they just need the moment in the same way that we
Yeah.
adults need the
Yeah.
moment too, right? And so we just spent a lot of time on the power of acceptance and the emotions, but I think, that's a big part of being able to demonstrate and practice empathy. And so with the empathy piece, empathy is teaching children to manage their emotions. So I want you to think about a situation similar to this that we've all probably experienced. You've got two students that come to you complaining about each other, yelling at each other, talking negatively about each other. They're just going a mile a minute back and forth, right? He did that. She said this. They're in their emotions. In the end, you're just like, enough, it's done. Go sit down. We're over this, right? Kids might sit down. They're still upset. In your mind, you're like, what the hell just happened, right? The problem never gets solved, right? It may be in that moment, it looks like it's subsided, but we didn't actually address the emotions involved. So with conscious discipline and empathy, what we want to do is practice something called the DNA process, which means to describe what you're seeing in students when there's conflict or upset, right? When your child makes eye contact with you also, taking that deep breath helps them calm too, because you're calm, they're downloading your calm. Naming the feeling. You seem sad, you seem angry, you seem disappointed. But then also acknowledging the desire. Oh, I noticed that you wanted to play with that ball. And that process is not always easy to deliver. So I thought to help us better understand this, we might do a little bit of role playing.
So aggressive.
I know, and I can't wait.
I would like to take credit for some of the verbiage, but it's directly from the book. So we're going to do some role playing. You got your scripts up?
Yep. Sure do.
Okay. I will be the teacher.
Of
and
course.
we've got our two students.
This is acting. I do not feel this way about Lisa.
Disclaimer.
Scotty can put a disclaimer on there. This is a reenactment, not real life. All right. So you seem frustrated.
Yeah, I hate her. She's always calling me names.
Yeah, well, I hate you too. Call me a name first.
That's a lie. You're a liar.
You always lie. I just spit it. No one likes you, and everybody hates you, and I hate you too. Ugh.
You're so mean.
I know, sorry.
I'm gonna go
And
and
scene.
crawl.
I'm sorry.
I'm gonna go crawl under
So in this example, we jumped right into the naming, right? The teacher did a good job of naming. You seem frustrated, but then it didn't really go anywhere, right? It became less structured. And depending on the circumstances, you might not be able to always jump in right with the describing. It just depends on the situation where you have to take that conversation. But there's still frustration, right? And if that teacher isn't interjecting or presenting it in a more structured manner, it's just going to continue to escalate and go downhill. So we're going to try it again, but this time we're going to integrate the acknowledging piece from the teacher side. So we'll start over. starting with the teacher. You both seem frustrated. You wanted to solve a problem, but you didn't know what to do.
She called me stupid.
She said my hair looks like a bunny's butthole.
No wonder you both seem angry. Neither one of you knew how to share your frustrations in a respectful way. Kari, did you like it when she called you stupid?
No.
Lisa, did you like it when she compared your hair to a bunny butt?
Obviously not.
It seems you both need help using your big voice to teach others how you want to be treated. Kari, tell Lisa, I don't like it when you call me names. When you want to talk to me, use my name.
I don't like it when you call me names. When you want to talk to me, use my name.
Okay, Kari.
Lisa, tell Kari, I don't like it when you make fun of my hair. When you talk to me about my hair, either compliment it or say nothing.
Kari, I don't like it when you talk about my hair. Period. I don't
Is
want to
there-
ask her to say a compliment. That's just ridiculous.
Maybe.
If it's not,
It's a skill.
I think it looks
if
a
it's
skill.
not authentic, I don't want
It may
it.
not.
But it's giving that skill of like,
It's a skill.
You can
This
say
is what you
nothing,
can say
or you can say
instead.
it looks
It's
nice.
letting the other
That's
person
a
know what you're
compliment,
comfortable with
Lisa.
too. And,
Yeah,
and I
like
think it
it's-
is situational.
Yeah, I'm not comfortable
right?
with it.
Yeah.
I'm not comfortable.
But it gave me a choice.
I took some liberties here with the script. I don't
It's
know if
okay.
anybody can
Yeah,
tell.
you did.
because I think sometimes kids don't actually know that it's not okay to say those things, right? Because the number of times that kids come running in from recess and there's so-and-so said this and so-and-so said that, and you go and you talk to that child and that child says, well, I was just joking. I didn't know that would bother them.
Yeah.
And so I think we do have to give them those words, right? For adults, we don't have to. It feels stupid and silly. But for kids, oftentimes, because they have different rules and expectations at school and at home and at church and at soccer, right? They're in so many different...
It has to be modeled.
Yeah, they're in so many different settings that something that is okay at home with your siblings is not okay with your best friend on the playground because they don't think it's funny like your brother does, right? So I do think that those words and telling them what they should say and what is appropriate is often needed because they genuinely don't know they did anything wrong.
They need a word bank. The amount of times
Yes.
I have to go back and be like, hey guys, like these are some things that are okay to say. These are some things that
Yeah.
are not okay. They feel rude, is a lot.
Yeah, because
Or
that
just the
blurred
just
line between
joking.
home and school is really tricky. We can only do what we can do here. And use that wordage of like, hey, I know this might be okay at home. It might be okay at soccer. It might be okay at, your friend's house. It's not okay here.
Well, even as tricky it is for us as adults to have that conversation,
Yeah.
right? So from the student side of it, it's even more difficult for them, which is why it's important for us to phrase it in that way. So like the time machine, right, is another tool
We
for
love
conflict
it.
Oh, I love
resolution.
that, yeah.
And it's awkward at first. Like I feel definitely more comfortable now. And I've seen kids try to practice it, and I know other teachers have mentioned seeing some of their students letting peers know, I don't like it when you do this, right? And I think that's a huge step because when those kids can advocate for themselves, I think Eric talked about that in one of the earlier episodes.
Yeah.
Some of the strengths and successes he's seen with his first graders.
Because otherwise, you're getting the kids in 3rd grade, in 5th grade, in 6th grade that are running up wanting the adult to fix it because we have rescued them for so long. And so reminding them that they are powerful and they can do it, it's uncomfortable, but we're also teaching them uncomfort is not a safety problem.
But it's
that can be
also
difficult.
inherent. We do that.
Yes, we have
We
to be
wanna fix
uncomfortable to
everything.
grow. Like we
And
have
bored.
to. We have to be uncomfortable and bored sometimes.
Yeah, it's like with anything, like when you start a new sport or an activity, right? It's hard and it's awkward at first, but the more you do it, the easier it gets.
It's a muscle memory thing.
Yep.
So that teacher acknowledgement part is so important, but it's challenging. So now it's your turn. I'm going to share some phrases that we might hear students say, and I want the two of you to tell us maybe the proper or a better way that a teacher should acknowledge or respond to that statement.
Okay.
So a student comes up and says, no one likes me.
I like
How do we
you.
acknowledge that feeling
Mary.
I
in a
like you.
positive way?
Oh, you wish.
How many times I say that per day? What do you need right now? Do you need a hug? Are you hungry? Sometimes you just got to be there.
Yeah, I think that I would probably say, if a student came up to me and said, no one likes me, I would probably say, you want to feel loved in our room, right? Like you want to feel like your peers love you and care about you.
So good.
That sounds directly from the book, right? The book
And
response.
that's why she's
the
here.
book response was, "You were hoping to have friends who care for you." Another statement: "He took my pencil," or fill in the blank. He took my whatever.
You seem angry about that.
You don't like it when people touch your stuff, do you?
Those
It's
are
not
both
okay.
good.
Yeah, you don't like it when people don't ask your permission to use your things.
Book said, "You wanted your pencil back."
She's a winner.
Survey says.
Student says, "I don't care about math."
Ooh, math is hard.
Oh, yeah.
Math is hard.
We have to do hard things.
We have to do hard things. That's a good line I've adopted as well. Book said, "You were hoping we would continue with science." And everyone bothers me. Last one. Everyone bothers me.
Sounds like maybe you need some quiet time right now.
Some space.
Take a
Need
deep
little bit of
breath.
space.
Nailed it. You wanted to be left alone. Yeah. So it is tricky. Like with anything, it's the practice that we as adults have to do, because the more we do it, the more the kids do it. The important piece about acknowledging is that the student feels validated and heard, not ignored, not dismissed, not punished, right? Because that's not the feeling we want to express to them. So there was a lot in this chapter. We are running short of time. We spent a lot on the emotions, the acceptance piece. We talked about the DNA process. Just a couple other thoughts to keep in mind. It's our own empathy that's going to shape and build our children's empathy, whether it's our kids at home, whether it's the students we interact with during the day. When we're calm, they're going to download the calm. Alternatively, when we are not, they're going to download the less desired behaviors as well.
The mirror.
The mirror, yes. Anything else from chapter 8? Because again, it was a lot. Was there anything else sticking out that anyone
I
else
did.
wanted to share or point
I
out?
had to write it down so I wouldn't forget it.
I love it.
Demanding the world go my way creates struggle, not change. And I felt like, whoa, that's for adults and for children. We always want our way, and that's where the struggle begins. So it's good for all of us.
This is a good one.
Absolutely.
Anyone else?
There was so much in this, you know, and it really starts with the adults. We have to consciously like take that pause and like reflect on why we believe some of the things that we do, like with our emotions and feelings. And it's really hard to like look back and be like, man, I'm not always doing the best with this. Like when I tell kids like, hey, you guys got to talk this through, and I sometimes rush through it. And so reminding myself maybe just to take a breath and remember, like, they are learning. This is their childhood. This is their first time maybe that they're learning this, and they are not a burden for us to learn these really tough things as kids.
Yeah.
They're learning
Yeah.
now, or we're going to be teaching them later.
And if we keep pushing it away, I mean, this is why we are exhausted at the end of the day, right? Like this is the core of why, as educators, we go home exhausted, because we are having to do this so often during the day, on top of making sure that our kids are striving
Learning.
academically and learning as well. But I think the key piece of that is, if they are not regulated and they are not being taught these social and emotional tools, we're not going to reach them academically, because they're not going to
Because
absorb
at the
it.
end of the day, we want
Yes,
good
at the
human
end.
beings.
So this is what I always said when I homeschooled my kids was, I'm not homeschooling because I want my kids to be A+ honor roll kids. I'm homeschooling my kids because I want them to be good humans. I want my kids to be able to walk into any situation and be a good human being. And that is my goal now with every student that walks through my classroom door. Like, academics, yes, I want these kids to leave. I want them to pass their tests. I want them to do fantastic. But I want these kids to be better humans because they met me.
Yep. I
That's my
agree.
goal.
Well, and without the social piece, right? Like, no learning is going to happen
No,
anyway.
none.
So we need to
Absolutely
be civil.
none.
We need to be respectful. We need to be understanding of people's emotions and feelings. Because then when all that's taken care of, right, then we can move on to other things.
Yeah.
And it's really, like, it's easier said than done in hard times at work, right? So just earlier this week, we had a tough behavioral situation, and as I reflected on it later, this piece like gutted me, and I wonder if you caught that this student did this There was another student in the room. That student needed to leave so that the space was safe for the student that was having a difficult time. The student that left kind of engaged with the adults in a really funny way, like made some gestures, and we're all like, oh, ha, 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 you know, trying to make light of the situation. And he, as he was leaving or something, I said, oh, I love him. I love that guy. The student that was having a hard time looked at me and he goes, why do you love him? And I was like, oh.
I have goosebumps.
Oh. And so I in the moment, I said, because he is kind and he's funny and he makes me feel good and we're friends. And I think I may have said something about respect. And he went about his angry business. And later, as I'm reflecting on that, like I almost cried because in that moment, he was rational enough to recognize that like I was showing like love and care for that other student, and he wanted to like figure out how to do that. Because this particular student definitely struggles with accessing attention in appropriate ways. But when he just stopped and looked at me and was like, why do you love him? And I was like, and then I kicked myself because I should have said, next time I will say, I love you too. Yes. And I didn't. And and next time I will.
Didn't think about that either.
Yeah. Next time I will. But in the moment I was like, "Burr!" And then later I was like, that's really sad. And that really hurt my heart for him.
In episode 9, so we'll talk about this in the next episode, that it feels like he may have been conditioned to where love is only given when those things are given. So love is transactional, and so we're going to talk about that in the next episode as I'm like writing it.
Yeah,
it's hard.
It kind of brought me down a notch because it was a pretty elevated situation, and I was running, on adrenaline at that point, and I was feeling frustrated. Like I was frustrated that this was happening and that we weren't able to move on, and it was kind of a whole thing, and it kind of brought me back down, knocked me down a peg or two of like, yeah, Lisa, you need to remember empathy in this moment. Like he's just a tiny human, because I was frustrated. It was hard. It was really hard.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
And then just to build off your point, like we are so tired at the end of the day, right? There's just so much.
Yeah.
We've talked about it before. Sometimes going home to our own children, it's difficult to react and respond in the same way.
Yeah. We have some rough car rides on the way home sometimes because I just am so at capacity and they just want to know their mom is here now, right? Like I have
they've been away from you all day, so they're looking to connect.
Yes, I have to make that transition from Miss Menis to mom. And it's tricky some days. It is really tricky, and they can feel when I'm not feeling it, which then makes them in the back seats start arguing and bickering and fighting amongst each other, because then they're fighting for the teeny tiny bit of connection I do have.
Right.
And we connect to the loudest and thing that needs the most attention, and so that
so they're
negative
searching
then comes in.
They're looking for that attention, whether it's in a positive connection or whether it's, oh, mom yelled at me last, right? Mom told me to be quiet last. Those.
But Christina, it's super impressive because what you're doing right now, like in that moment, is you're recognizing that their behavior is serving a form of communication, right?
Sure.
And you're gonna address it, and like you're not like, you might yell in the moment or whatever, but right? You know what they're trying to do. You have a long drive home, and I've got a considerable drive to get my girls so that you have it just a little bit. You go right down the road, right?
We have recognized that like I need a little more space between here and there, because otherwise they are getting the bottom of the barrel from me, and it is hard. It's hard to acknowledge.
I use my drive to recharge, right? Like if the weather's nice, my windows are down, my music is up, and I'm listening to what I want to listen to, and I'm completely disassociating from the day.
Yeah, we often will, instead of having a conversation right away in the car, I'm like, who's DJ today? And I will hand someone my phone. And they will take turns choosing songs so that there is still that little bit of connection, but I don't have to hold space for their stories, right? They're not dumping their days on me yet. I can go home and land before that happens.
So taking care of our mental health is really important. May is Mental Health Month, so
Well, even when we know we've
Plug.
could have done things better, there's always those moments when you don't expect it. So I texted
Yep.
them last night. I got a random hug from my 17-year-old
What?
out of the blue. So parenting win, right? When you don't expect it.
You and I
Probably
had
when-
very different evenings
is
last
probably
night.
when you need it.
Seriously.
And so it always comes at the right time.
You and I had very different evenings.
We did, yeah. Well, I had to defrost the fridge also, so.
You enjoy
Wasn't-
every
wasn't-
moment.
Wasn't
believe me.
always, wasn't a fully great night. But, all right, anyone else? Do you have the questions up? So before we go, one last bit of fun for you all. We have a spinner.
Ooh.
You get to spin, and they're gonna ask you a funnish type
Got it.
question.
Fun-ish.
Yeah, who wants to go first?
I don't know about
Fun-ish.
fun-ish.
Here, you can hold it. It might be easier to.
What's it called?
the Wheel of Mischief.
Wheel of Mischief.
Wheel of Mischief.
Yeah. Oh.
Oh, 6.
6 for Mary.
6
Sure,
for
I'll do this one. So, Mary, what dessert would you compare yourself to and why?
Oh my God.
If you were a dessert, who would you be?
Did you add that?
I am totally coconut cream pie.
Why?
And why?
Because that's just me. I'm different.
You're different. I've
And
never
unique.
had it before.
With a wink.
Sounds delicious.
With a wink. It is
with
delicious.
the wink. Diane Dent's daughter is in like culinary classes. She's like baking and she's like in like a chocolatier. I don't know. I sample them daily. And she was like, I made a strawberry temptress bar. And I was like,
Let me try that.
what is that? I'm interested.
She
You
sounds-
have piqued my interest.
She sounds interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, Christina.
Ooh, that's really loud. Nope. I'm not doing the same question.
No, that's fair. Oh,
All right.
5.
this is a good
Oh
one.
God.
You have to choose one. You have to choose one. You can either have eyebrows or eyelashes. Which one
But not both.
and why?
No.
This is payback for every stupid morning meeting question I've asked my children this year.
Yep.
That is
Eyebrows or
so
eyelashes?
hard because you think about either one of those being absent, and it's really.
Well, I can picture no eyebrows. I can't picture no eyelashes.
Okay, you guys, I have to go with I would have no eyelashes because I have a giant forehead and I have like forehead trauma from when I was a child. My peers always made fun of how big my forehead
Who
was.
hurt you?
Oh, yeah, I can tell you exactly who.
She remembers her name and she holds
I am not going to
grudges.
say
Yeah,
it.
don't say it.
But
You know what you did.
one time I let
know
a
who you
friend take my hair and
We'll be
she
knocking on your
twisted
door.
it super tight and then
No.
she cut bangs for me because my forehead was so big. So she just twisted and cut it. And then I had these like weird jagged it
Your
was
mom
it
loved
was
that.
it was not good. It was not good. That was
That
a
knocked the
rough
wind out of me.
few months for Christina. So I'm gonna keep my eyebrows. Yeah, and then I guess that getting ready in the morning is easier if you don't have to put mascara on, right?
Sure. Save money.
Yeah, so I would keep my eyebrows. The lashes can go. Although then would stuff get in your eyes? This
know.
is hard,
Potentially.
you guys.
Just close them then. Is what it is.
I want to know what it looks like with no eyelashes.
Scotty, we need
Have
a
you-
picture.
Have you
Of a
ever
human
seen
with no
anybody who's like going through
eyelashes.
chemo treatment?
No.
People have alopecia.
Yeah, alopecia, yeah. I feel like I've seen.
Yeah. I guess I'm picturing no eyebrows much more frequently than
Yeah, I would.
no eyelashes.
No thanks.
I got off
But
the rail on
also,
the thought
you
that
losing
were-
your eyebrows is going to be a much more significant loss
Yeah.
than like Mary's
Like
eyebrows
Eugene
are
Levy
super
over
light.
here.
Yeah, I can like if Mary lost her eyebrows, like I'm not even sure I'd notice immediately. I'd be like something's different, but I don't know that it would be immediate because they're so light and they match your hair. So I do think that there is.
But they make that boundary between your eyes and your hair. I would notice if
And they're
Mary did not have
expressive.
eyebrows.
I'd be
they're
like something happened to
expressive.
your face.
Yeah, like can you imagine yeah, like doing that, but there would be no line there to.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
They're
I'm keeping my
expressive.
eyebrows, guys.
Yeah.
I don't care
Just
what gets in my
continuous,
eyes.
right?
I'm keeping them.
Yeah.
Huh.
That's why we have them.
That was
Got to keep
fun.
them.
Yeah. Well, that feels like a good spot to stop. Would like to thank our guests, Christina and Mary. Thank you for joining us, my co-hosts. Just a couple of quick recap items for our listeners at home. Just keep in mind, conflict starts with the upset. In turn, we always try to solve the conflict but then ignore the upset piece. We need to make sure that we're managing the emotional upset, otherwise we're never truly going to be able to resolve the conflict in the first place. The skill of empathy and the power of acceptance teach us that the moment is as it is, and that true empathy demands we listen to children's feelings and thoughts without the need to change them. Reviewing the DNA process, describing what you see, naming the feeling, acknowledging the desire. For example, your face is going like this. You seem angry. You wanted to be in charge of the craft supplies. And then lastly, empathy does not change the limits on behavior. It helps children to better be able to accept the limits that we set. Thank you, Christina and Mary, for joining us. Thank you, Lisa and
You're welcome.
Kari.
Thanks for inviting us.
It wouldn't have been fun without all of you. All right? So, until next time, stay mindful.
Stay mischievous.
And stay connected.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Peace. Bye, Scotty.
So good.